Hello, my name is Rita Cox. I'm a storyteller, I'm an educator, and I'm here at the Aurora Public Library to open the celebration of Black History Month when we recognize that part of our Canadian population in the many ways that we celebrate ourselves, our culture, and our community. It's good to be here. I am going to be telling stories from my own background that they represent the community, the Black community. And I look forward to seeing you all and sharing my tales with you.
Okay, if everybody wants to just grab your sweets and have a seat, we'll be ready to start. Can you hear me? Is this, don't need to turn it on? Okay. So I would first like to do a land acknowledgement. We are all immigrants and children of immigrants to Canada. We gratefully acknowledge the original caretakers of this land. We acknowledge the philosophy behind the Dish with One Spoon Treaty. This contract binds people on this land to share with their neighbors so that we may all have enough. There is one dish, one spoon, and no knife. In that spirit, we honor all those who came before us, our own ancestors, as well as all the Indigenous caretakers, named and unnamed, recorded and unrecorded. Welcome, friends, to this afternoon where we present Rita Cox Live. And I have to tell you, this afternoon is probably one of the most celebratory afternoons or days of my career as a librarian. Dr. Rita Cox is recognized as a Canadian icon who is a librarian by profession, renowned storyteller, and admired as a leader in the community. She has been described as an exceptional individual who, through her love of the spoken and written word, has inspired people of all ages and has opened the literary world to her audience. Dr. Cox joined the Toronto Public Library as a children's librarian in 1960. In 1972, she became the head of the Parkdale branch and launched literacy programs and other initiatives that promoted multiculturalism throughout Toronto. During her tenure, Dr. Cox pioneered the library's Black Heritage and West Indian Resource Collection, which was renamed the Black and Caribbean Heritage Collection. It soon became one of the most comprehensive collections of its kind in Canada, and today continues to be a source of pride in the community. An active member of the Black community, Dr. Cox established Kumbaya, a festival of Black heritage and storytelling. A number of her stories have been published, including her own children's book entitled How Trouble Made the Monkey Eat Pepper. A renowned storyteller who has entertained audiences worldwide, she has also maintained the Toronto Public Library's storytelling legacy by training a whole new generation of storytellers. After her retirement from the Toronto Public Library in 1995, Dr. Cox was appointed a citizenship court judge by the Government of Canada. Dr. Rita Cox has won numerous awards, including the Canadian Library Association's Public Service Award and Black Achievement Award. In 1997, Dr. Cox was appointed a member of the Order of Canada for her outstanding work in storytelling and literacy. Both Wilfrid Laurier University and York University have awarded her honorary doctorates. It is now my great honor to present Dr. Rita Cox.
Well, it's good to be here, and it's good to do the first celebration of Black History Month on the first day of Black History Month, although I think every day should be Black History Month, and every day should celebrate us all. But because it's Black History Month, and because I want to share our cultural expressions with you, I will first share with you stories that I grew up with. And we all listen to stories, and they make us laugh, and they make us sad, and they make us think, When I was a child, we went to the country where an old man with everybody called Pa because we didn't know his name. He sat at his little hut in the back. We sat on the ground and he told us stories. Sometimes it would be at night because it's the country, no street lights and everything else. And Pa would tell us stories that made us laugh. He told us stories, as I said, made us think. And he told us stories that scared us to death. And then we had to go through that little village in the country, no street lights, and we huddled together for if a leaf dropped from the tree, we screamed and ran home, but we went back the next night for more. The first set of stories I want to tell you, and if you are from the Caribbean, you know of a character called Anancy. Boys and girls, you know who Anancy is? He was a spider. He was a man. Sometimes he was a spider, but sometimes he was a very wise man. But he could be a trickster too. But just think of where the stories came from. Stories from Anancy came from West Africa with the slaves. They couldn't pack to come. They were put on boats and brought across the Atlantic. They were oppressed. They were tortured. They had no power. But they had their stories. They had their cultural expressions. They had their sense of humor, and above all, wisdom. And so when you laugh at Anancy's exploits, think of a people oppressed. Think of a people subjugated. Think of a people just with no power at all. And think of the great, big, powerful creatures that tortured them, that oppressed them. And then think of Anancy outsmarting the larger and more powerful characters. That was an expression of wishful thinking, and perhaps one day, emancipation. And so the story I'm going to tell you is about Anancy and Brer Tiger, who both wanted to marry a woman whose name was Kwashiba. Sometimes she seemed to like Anancy, and sometimes she seemed to prefer Brer Tiger. But Anancy was determined to get her for his wife. So one day, he went to Miss Kwashiba's house and he said, "Miss Kwashiba, I don't think Tiger is good company for you." "Oh, no good company," she said, "but everybody thinks he's such a fine fellow." "A fine fellow indeed. Don't you know? Don't you know he's nothing but an old riding horse?" "Is that true, Anancy?" "Of course it's true. I used to ride him myself when I was little because he was my father's riding horse." Well, Miss Kwashiba was very upset about this, but she didn't want any old riding horse for her husband. So when Tiger came to see her, she was a bit cold to him and said, "Was something the matter, Miss Kwashiba?" "Well," she said, "I don't think I want to keep company with you anymore." "Why ever not?" "Well, Anancy said that you were his father's riding horse, and that's not good enough for me." He said, "What?" He said, "You were his riding horse." "But that's a lie." He said he could prove it. He said he used to ride you himself. "But that is a lie," said Tiger. "Well, I am going to go to his house now, and I'm going to bring him here, and I'm going to prove to you that what he said was a lie." Oh, Tiger was so angry. He tore out of Miss Kwashiba's house and went roaring and ranting down the village to Anancy's house. And Nancy heard him coming. And by the time Tiger reached his house, and Nancy had tied his head with a cloth, climbed into bed and covered up with a blanket, Tiger crashed into his door. Oh, there you are. How dare you say such a... Oh, it's you, Tiger. So good of you to come to see me. Did they tell you how sick I was? Oh, you sick, are you? Yes, I have a fever, I have ache, I ache all over. Well, I don't care how sick you are. I want to know how you could tell Miss Kwashiba such a lie. Me, what did I say? You said that I was your father's riding horse, and you know that's a lie. Did I say that? Maybe it's a fever that went to my head. Well, I don't care how sick you are. You are going with me right now to Miss Kwashiba's house, and you're going to tell her that what you said was a big fat lie. Tiger, you see how weak I am. I can't go anywhere. I can't even raise my head. Oh, yes, you're going, even if I have to carry you myself. And Nancy looked across on the wall. He said, Tiger, you know how I respect you. I'd be happy to go with you. So I suggest, you see that rope on the wall? If you took it down and you tied it around my neck, I could hold on to it and go with you. But see, in those days, tigers walked upright. Tiger went to the wall, he took the rope, he tied it around his neck, he held it loose. He tied it loosely so that Nancy could hang on, and he went to the bed. And Nancy climbed up, hung on to the rope, and slept back down. Oh, Tiger, your back is so hard, and you know I'm so sore all over. Maybe if you wrap my blanket around your middle, I could sit on it and be more comfortable. Without a word, Tiger pulled the blanket off the bed and tied it securely around his middle. And then Nancy climbed up, sat on the blanket, and off they went. But it wasn't very long before, and Nancy cried, oh, Tiger, stop. What is it now? Tiger, you are sitting up. I can't do this anymore. Your back is so hard. Maybe if I had a stick, I could touch you with it every time you speed it up, and you could slow down without much trouble. Very well. Tiger looked on the ground, picked up a twig, which she gave to Anancy, and on they went. But alas, not for very long. But Anancy cried, oh, Tiger, put me down. Put me down right now and let me die. You're going to die after. You tell Miss Kwashiba what you said is a lie. Right now you're going on with me. Well then, get goat or dog or monkey to carry me. Well, I'm stronger than any one of them. Yes, you are. But you see, and Tiger, they know how to walk on 4 legs as well as 2. And I can't sit up like this any longer. Well, if they can walk on 4 legs, so can I, said Tiger. And he went down on all 4s. And he continued on as slowly as he could so as not to upset Anancy anymore. Meanwhile, Miss Kwashiba had gone around and told all the friends and neighbors about the quarrel that these two were having over her. Some of them had been tricked by Anancy, some of them had been bullied by Tiger. All of them were interested. So they all came to Miss Kwashiba's house and stood on her veranda. And there they waited to see what would happen. Along the path came Tiger, and Nancy on his back. Slowly, he crept along the path. Tiger walking slowly, and Nancy looking in the distance. Closer and closer and closer they came. And Nancy could see in the distance all those people standing on Miss Squashiba's veranda. Closer and closer and closer they came. And at last, they came alongside the veranda. People were shocked as Anancy shouted out, "See, Miss Squashiba, didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you it was nothing but an old riding horse?" And he hit Tiger, "Get him, get him, get him, get him!" And he jumped off. Well, Tiger was so embarrassed that he ran off into the bushes on all four legs. Because he was heckled, he was scared. And from that day to this, tigers have been walking on all four legs. It's Anancy who made that happen. Well, I see some little people here. And any foolish boys here? Well, you know, every culture has a story about a silly person. If you go to France, if you go to Puerto Rico or Spain, you will hear about one bobo. If you go to China, you will hear about, they have a stupid person. If you go to England, you will hear about Lazy Jack. If you go to Germany, you will hear about Goose Hands, who was as silly as a goose. The one I want to share with you is about a boy who had a very long name.